interesting part, today we're on lesson 4, by the way. The interesting thing to me was that I had a whole bunch of people coming up to me that didn't know how to solve the word problems. That's fine. So I had all these people asking how to do a word problem, and I'd say, okay, so how would you solve this problem? And they would say, add, like, okay. And what have you been doing this whole assignment? Adding, but it seems like when people run into numbers next to words, they think it's different, but it's not. It's the same exact thing. So I'm going to go straight to a word problem on problem set lesson 4, number 2. Says Penny used 2/5 pound of flour to bake a vanilla cake. She used another 3/4 pound of flour to bake a chocolate cake. How much flour did she use altogether? So we're going to draw, what kind of model are we going to draw, Samantha? We're going to draw a tape diagram. And remember, I'm just using this to help me. I'm not counting how many boxes. And how many different, that whole bar, this whole tape diagram equals, do we know? What's our goal? However much flour. Okay, so this bar represents flour, right? But do we know how much total she used? So what's going to go up here on the top? Question mark? My people who weren't paying attention yesterday, I need to see you writing in your book right now. And how many times did she use the flour? How many different times does it say that she used the flour? Alexis? To make vanilla cake and to make chocolate cake. So she used it twice, right? So we're just going to go ahead and put a bar right there, wherever. If you want to put it in the middle, you can. That's fine. And the first time she used it, how much flour did she use? 2/5. And the second time she used the flour, how much did she use? 3/4. So what do we need to do to those two numbers to find out how much total flour she used? Connor? We're going to have to add since it said all together. We're going to add. And if the words kind of freak you out and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to add anymore because I see words next to my numbers, you can go on a separate sheet of paper and do this, or you can do it on your chart that I'm letting you use. Make sure you have your tape diagram, though, on your paper. So now we have 2/5 plus 3/4. How am I going to set that problem up on my chart? My little manipulative here. Do you have your blue? No, I forgot it. Okay. I'm going to do 5 boxes across. Okay, I'm going to go over 5 boxes. And how many down? 4. And how many fractions do I have that I'm adding together? 2. So how many times am I going to do the box? 2 times. And if I go down on this box, How many total strips do I have? I have 5 total, and how many of those 5 are going to be shaded in? 2. And remember, we just did the dots just because it makes life a whole lot easier than shading, because then you lose your lines and you can't remember what's what. And then what do I do with my second box? You have to do 3 rows of dots. Going this direction? Yes. Okay. So now I have 4. I'm going to do 3 rows of dots. Remember, you have to stay inside the strips that you made. Okay, going up through other strips doesn't work. Now today we're going to get into whole numbers and everything, so I'm going to show you one little strategy you can use so you don't have to keep drawing these boxes over and over and over and over. If I were to make another box down below, would I keep just 5 strips and then 4 strips? What would I do? Make the boxes all together, so the long strips and the short strips. Perfect. So here's the new thing. If this doesn't work for you, then you can do it the way we did it last night. Once you have your strips made and they're already filled in, it only works if they're already filled in. Otherwise, you're going to get really confused. So once you make the strips, then you fill them in. What's the first thing you're going to do? Everybody? What's the very first thing you're going to do? Make the strips. And then what do you do? Thank you. What's the first thing you do? Make the strips. Then what do you do? Fill them in. What's the first thing you do? Then you? One more time. Then once they're filled in, go ahead and make the rest of the boxes. So now we've already filled them in. We can make the rest of the boxes, and guess what? We have beautiful dots already in the boxes. Perfect. Boom, 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 boom. So make strips, fill them in. Now, if you can't get your finger right in that little box for the dots that you've done, you could put an X. But what we're going to do now is we're just going to take this whole thing and add it onto this. And to do that, we're going to take the dots out of here, and for each dot we take out, we put it over here because we're adding it to it. So, my first row, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to take a dot, add it over here. And if you want to keep from getting confused, you can even just put an X. So these are the ones I've added. If you want to do it that way, whatever works for you. So you take a dot out, go ahead and do it on your paper. Put a dot in over here. Take a dot. Put a dot. Take a dot. Put a dot. Can I also count them to see how many I can take? Took a dot. Put a dot. And hopefully I didn't miss one. I have a hard time talking and doing this at the same time, so we'll see. Hopefully you guys are doing this on your board too, so you can check my work to make sure that I didn't miss one. Okay. So the whole reason we did that is that now we see that 2/5 plus 3/4 equals, what does this whole thing equal? 1 and what? 3/20. 1 and 3/20. And that's what you're working with today. What do we call that? What do we call those numbers? A mixed fraction because we have a whole and then a fraction. Good, it's a mixed number. So the original question on number 2 was how much flour did she use altogether? She used 1 and 3/20. What's my label going to be? Pounds. And that's how it's done. You just take your existing boxes and you just add to them. That way, if you get bigger numbers like 2 and whatever, you'll already have it there. Yes. In our homework last night, they were telling us how much was left, and they want to know how much she did here. Would you just count the boxes that weren't put in? Yes. Good job. If it asks how much was left, we would look at how many empty spaces we have. But it has to tell you how much is there originally. 17. Yeah, but if it tells you that, you just take your empty boxes out. It would be 17/20 would be how much she didn't use. If you have a problem like that, where you have to go in and say what's left. Okay, good question. So your assignment, you should have time to get it done in class, is going to just be all of homework, including the word problems. Remember, when you get to a word problem, don't freeze. Write it off to the side and solve it. I will be looking for tape diagrams on your homework. And it's on your own. Try to get it done by yourself. If you need help, I'm available.